Hi, this is Drew Styling. Thank you for joining us on the second episode of Adventures in Job Searching. For all of you who watched the first episode with Monique, I really appreciate it and happy to get this continuing. So in today's episode, we're going to have Jennifer Hillard speaking. She works in the talent acquisition space and is currently looking for her next opportunity. So Jennifer, thanks so much for coming on the show. What would you like viewers to know about you? And both in terms of maybe, how you got into the talent acquisition space, and again, without, talking about specific companies, but just sort of what you enjoyed working about in that space.
Oh, thank you for inviting me to your cast. I appreciate it. I remember starting off years ago, just interested in tech, but didn't really know how to get into the space. I'm a first gen college graduate and didn't have anyone to kind of, teach me how to apply for jobs after college. So when I first started off, I was just like, I want to do tech. I'm in the West Coast and right in the heart of Silicon Valley. And I just didn't know how to do it. So I started off just being interested. So what I did, I applied for jobs, started off being in the talent acquisition space. And I started out being a coordinator, scheduling interviews, doing the basic grunt work in TA. And I thought about it, I was like, I like this, but I want to do a little bit more. So I was introduced through someone actually being ill and had to go out on maternity leave, early. And I ended up being interested in early talent. So it was university recruiting back then. Now it's considered early talent or early career. So I love working with, those group of folks, they're entering, seem like they were like me, didn't know anything about how to enter, the workforce and, how to work and how to apply for jobs. And I think I just resonated with that particular sector of the population of applicants. So I started off being an early career, and I've pivoted from working early career and then also, doing some recruiting manager jobs, just kind of, but pretty much under the sector of talent acquisition. Started working at big companies. That was the first, exposure. So I wasn't purposely going after big companies, but I knew I could get more exposure to how to work and what it's like working at a company by targeting big companies. So my first job was in early career at a large company.
That's great. What really interested me just there, what you just said, is the first generation college grad, and that is something that a lot of people might not be familiar with. It's could you talk a bit about how you think being a first gen college grad affected that first job search for you?
That's a great question. I think I didn't have anyone around me to ask, how do you do it? We know we can go on websites and apply for jobs, but it takes more than that. You have to have a network sometimes, to get, to understand what, how to start. So what I mean by that is that I didn't have that network that I could reach out to and say, I heard about a job at this company. I applied online. How do I network with, the recruiter in charge or the HR person that works there? I didn't know how to do that. And it made sense why I didn't know how to do that, because I didn't have anyone to ask, and no one around me had that experience. So how it affected me, it required for me to ask a lot of questions. So I did my due diligence. I would go to, back in college, I would go to the Career Center and I would ask more questions. How do you do it? I would search out. I discovered LinkedIn years ago, and, how to reach out to people that I did not know. And to ask questions about just the simple questions like, how do I apply? What does this job entail? So it takes a lot more due diligence and effort when you are, you're a first gen and you don't have that exposure, you don't have that legacy. So that's why, again, going into early career, I'm doing my job, but I'm also, a mentor and kind of teaching students the way of doing it if they don't have that exposure, if they have a background like myself.
Mm-hmm. When you were in college, a couple questions, and you sharing that, I certainly hope this doesn't come off as bragging. It's just reality that, I graduated college 2008. Recession was about to start, took 4 months till it. But here's how I got my certainly the first grade interviews. My aunt's like, oh yeah, I can get you an interview at my company. It's a very prestigious company. And I went in for the interview, and the person interviewing me was like, oh yeah, I work with your cousin. She's wonderful. I'm well aware that I got very lucky for that, and I'm also well aware that a lot of people don't get that lucky, So, a couple of questions. When you were in college, do you feel like, it certainly seems like, do you think you were more forward-thinking, while you were still in college, more forward-thinking about your career than other students? And secondly, do you think that your career center was supportive of you, especially being a first gen, not knowing how to navigate the kind of the white collar job search?
That's a great question too. I don't know if I was forward thinking. I'm going to age myself. I'm really going to age myself. So I did this years ago. I think one thing I did know is that I didn't know. That's one thing I did know. I did not know how to do it. And the only way I was going to, because I'm a question person, I'm always going to ask. That kind of helped me a lot. Maybe not the forward thinking, but I asked a lot of questions. So did my career center help me? A little bit. A little bit kind of steered me in different directions. Maybe they introduced me to certain job postings. But I had to just really decide that I need to talk to people that I have no idea who they are. And they may respond and they may not. And a lot of them did not respond to me. They don't know who I am, And like I said, I didn't have, I love when people now are able to, use their network. That's what I'm doing now, using my network to get other jobs. But when you don't have that network, I encourage anyone around me, just keep asking questions. So, it doesn't matter. You may hear someone in the coffee shop talk about their job. You don't want to be, invasive, but excuse me, I have a question for you. I heard you talk about, you really do have to be that, and that's the forward thinking you have to be. You have to be very upfront, and you have to be willing to create your network. So that's all I did.
Yeah. I think a lot of people certainly are uncomfortable with that. Here's the reality, and I think you would agree. Let's say maybe 10% reply, to that kind of outreach. The other 90% are they're not going to respond, but they're not going to send an army to your house to shame you. That's all that happens is they don't reply. A couple things came to mind. When I was in grad school in Mexico City, I emailed an extremely famous chef of Mexican cuisine, extremely famous on TV all the time, and he replied 2 minutes later. And it's the type of thing you wouldn't think of, but he just. So again, it's worst case he hadn't replied, and instead I got a nice conversation going with someone who's an expert in Mexico City food, and even recently, same thing. I'll just not naming names, an industry I'm really interested in. I just emailed a leader in the industry, and he's like, hey, yeah, great to connect. Follow up in April, I might have something. And that's the type of thing where I'm kind of looking for hospitality management roles now, having transitioned from tech. But again, that's something I hope people watching this understand, that even if it's a 5% response rate, the other 95%, all they're going to do is ignore you. It's you really have nothing to lose by just saying, hey, would you have a few minutes to chat? So that's great to hear that you did that.
Exactly.
Could you talk maybe a little bit then, when you were in college, were a lot of your peers also first gen, or did they seem to have parents who were able to help them with the job search?
It was a combination of both, actually. There are a few people that I surrounded myself with, hangs out, they were first gen. So we understood, we all had to work even harder to get that exposure, to get our questions answered. But it was a combination of both. And also when you ask that question is that it goes back to me listening, the folks that do have the connections. I would listen and say, well, how did you do that? Who do you know? Do you mind introducing me to so-and-so? You have to really be that, proactive. And I encourage that. I know, my background is, really a recruiter. So recruiters, we do the research, you really do have to be that forward thinking. If you're not comfortable talking, maybe you're more introverted, then contact, like you said earlier, reach out on LinkedIn. I've had CEOs who send, the companies that I've worked at, the CEOs will forward over an email from someone they thought that emailed them and thought they were, a good candidate because they reached out directly. You never know. You never know. So just don't assume, like you said, that no one's going to respond, because they may, that 1%, and that may be the job that you need and want.
Right, exactly. That is so great to hear. It's kind of very meta to have, and not the tech company meta, very meta to have someone in recruiting on a podcast about job searching who's in the job search themselves. What do you think? I guess almost my question. Obviously, you might have insight about how the job search works, how to do it more effectively, but you almost you kind of might know how the sausage is made, and that might almost be a downside of being a recruiter. So could you talk a bit about how being in recruiting makes the current job search both maybe easier but also more painful?
It is. That's a good question too, because the great part of being a recruiter in the job search is that my feelings don't get hurt as much because I know how it works. I really do. I see sometimes I'll see, I'll be on, group chats in different groups, and they're like, I applied 50 times and I didn't get any responses. And that happens. And it's not even that you're a bad candidate. So I know that. I know, even though I may apply for something, I feel that I'm the perfect candidate for it. It's just there's so many applications. And you may be perfect, but there's one thing on your resume that's great, but someone else has more of that little nuance. It's not even, or you be, like I said, perfect. It's just we can't interview everybody. So I know that. So that's why my feelings don't get hurt as much, because I'm like, yeah, it's just a lot of people, just applying. It's not that I'm bad. So that's the great part about it. I know what's going on under the scenes, as they say. I forgot how they say that, but I know what's going on behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. So I know that. The bad part about it is that I also know that. I also know what the economy looks like. I know when companies tend to open up more jobs, when they, I know the cycle of recruiting. So I know when there's a downtime, I'm not going to be interviewed because this is how the company flow works. I know certain parts of the year, for example, they'll look at their jobs, they're looking at budget. I know when this happens. So the bad part is that when I'm in that season, I know I'm not going to get any calls. So I have to accept it. So there's good and bad of being behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is. Recruiting, it's, what would we say? It's almost probably like first one on, first one off in a way, I feel like. They hire recruiters first so they can hire staff, but when they no longer hire staff, before they get rid of staff, then they get rid of recruiters.
Yes.
It is it's the modern day gold rush, which is appropriate since, you're out in that area. I guess I would say, what if, working in the recruiting and talent space, what have you, enjoyed about it? What have you learned about yourself? What makes you want to, what has kept you doing that work instead of transitioning to something else?
I don't think I can't picture myself transitioning anytime soon. The reason why is that I really, really, really love helping people get jobs. I really do. I love, helping, first gen. I love helping early career. Again, from my background, it's just a passion at this point. It really is. I'm not even being dramatic. It's a passion for it. I understand. So I don't picture myself out of this space. Actually, some people say, I love working with people, and they don't. But I actually do. I love working with people. I love having conversations. I love learning about what people's goals are and their career goals. I love helping people get to their goals, even if I'm maybe the first step of you getting there. So that's why I like talent acquisition. The people that are around me that I respect, they're in my network, they're the same way. They are the same way. If you don't like it, they transition out very quickly. They don't last long. Because you can't fake that. You just can't fake it. So, for example, I had a friend, a past colleague who contacted me this morning, just wanted to check in about my job search. She's a recruiter. That's what we do. I like the space. I don't see myself getting out of the space. I think I prefer startups now because you get to, get your hands dirty and you get to be really part of the process from the beginning to the end. So that's what I'm looking for.
How do you think being a recruiter is different when you work for a large company versus a startup? How is the role of the recruiter different in those two environments?
In a large company, I mean, you're really tasked with just specific job duties. You don't get a chance to be as creative as you would like. I think when you're hired for a role, that's your role. If you're recruiting for a certain organization, you're only recruiting for that particular organization, and that's it. You don't really. I never had exposure to other parts of the company. Startups, I have exposure to every part of the company as a recruiter. Sometimes even if you're a recruiter for a certain org, they flip you around. You get to work in different organizations just because you're interested in working with them. So I like the creativity. Me being on the early talent side, I'm building a program and I'm recruiting. So I definitely touch every part of the organization, and I get to talk to different levels just because we're a small company. So
yeah, if you were, what are the hallmarks of, and not maybe a brand new startup, not a massive corporation, mid-sized company, or whatever. What are the hallmarks of a company that's doing recruiting right, and what are those red flags that would say, I don't think I want to work here?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've learned after all these years, like I said, I'm getting older, is that when you're interviewing...
I'm getting younger. I'm getting younger.
Oh, you look young. You look young. Don't worry. I learned that during the interview process, I asked the question. I was like, if it's a program, if it's a early talent program, I'm definitely asking like, is it heavily funded? Is the CEO, is he an advocate for the program? If he's not, I run fast. I don't stay. Because if it's not, if they don't have the funding and they're not interested in the program from the top down, it's never going to work. But in recruiting, I think just in general, if it's no matter what part of the recruiting, I want to know a little bit about like what their future is. Like, how do you expect to, expand, a company? Are you doing sustainably? Are you hiring 500 people at one time? Because you're not going to last long if they do. Like it has to be sustainable hiring. So I'm asking those questions about their budget, their finance, how they plan on being sustainable as they're growing their company.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the recruiting sphere, what are the things that is something I didn't think a lot of people consider. Sustainable recruiting and not doing too much too fast. What should companies know about recruiting and how to, it's almost, hey, we have this huge pile of money, let's spend it all right away. And that's, so could you talk a bit about if a company said, we'd love to have you advise us on sustainable recruiting. Can you please talk about that?
That's a big question. I think it just depends on where they are. If I look at it from a startup, because I think as you're a big company, they've been there, done that, and they have their own process, and it's not going to change. But in general, I think I'll use a startup as an example. I think I would advise them to take it slow, but then make sure you lock down which organization should be doing the hiring right now. If you're just hiring just because your hiring manager says I need somebody, I want 5 people, and they don't need 5 people. You need 1 person or you need 2 people. So really be very just make sure that the hiring team knows exactly what they need at the right time. Not just hiring just because you just feel you need a group of folks to work with you. Because what will happen is that they'll be laid off soon because they won't need them. So
is it very common that in a lot, especially as organizations get bigger, I would imagine different departments, different product lines, the managers often probably want as much staff as possible just to make their ego look good. Is that correct?
Oh, that's correct.
And then so that's something I had considered before, that if they're hiring more to make their ego look good rather than true business needs, like you said, they're going to be those are the employees that get let go quickly.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true. And that's what I was alluding to, is that I've seen managers that say, I want to staff, basically they're just saying, I want 10 people underneath me, as staff members. I want this number compared to, maybe you only need a 4. You really don't. Like, even for my team, I led a team. It was a small team. Why? Because I didn't need more people. I didn't need to grow. I didn't have the ego to have 5 people underneath me that didn't have work to do, and then we're spending extra money that we could be spending money on the program or what we need for our clients. So I think when hiring, say, a recruiting manager, they need to be they need to help the hiring manager be level-headed. Like, what do you need? Like how do you need to grow your department, and how do you need to grow it sustainably? And then, commit. If you're a manager, if you're a recruiting manager, say, okay, I'm here to help you grow your department, but I need to help you grow it sustainably, as opposed to just growing it just because you want to hire a bunch of people. Because the result will be that you'll be laying them off eventually, because you don't need that many people, and you don't have the budget to sustain.
Right. How would you tie sort of effective, optimal recruiting to the overall health of the business? Obviously, the first thing I might think is, recruiters can, find the best talent, and I'm sure, and I'd love to hear maybe a bit about that, but also just, again, more on the sustainable side. How can a great recruiting program help a business be sustainably successful rather than just have a boom year and then a bust year?
Yeah. For me, just in the early talent side, I would definitely connect. I would always connect with the leaders, and these are, SVP levels or, exec levels, at least a year in advance, to understand, okay, how are you growing your group? How are you growing your organization? How can early talent, for example, help you grow them out? But I need to understand what your budget's going to look like, FY, the next year or whatever year. So I can help you get there. How do you balance, your attrition with how we can help you hire? Because there's always going to be attrition. So I think coming to any leader and asking them in advance about how they plan to grow their organization, and how the staffing, as recruiters, recruiting team, early talent, doesn't matter, how we can help you get there, is the best way of approaching it. Like, coming to them a year in advance to see what, how we can help you, as opposed to doing it, ad hoc. Like, I've seen managers say, okay, well, I lost 2 people, I need to backfill. Okay, that's great. And that makes sense. But how can I help you in advance to plan for the future? I think a lot of organizations don't plan for the future, and we just do things we're very reactive. So I encourage leaders, don't be reactive. Please think about what you need in advance so you can prep for the future and hire sustainably in that way.
If, again, a typical candidate, I don't know, marketing, or if they want to be a financial analyst, product manager, or something, and let's say they read all the job search advice, they do everything that they're supposed to. What is something that you would tell them that even the best job search advice probably isn't telling them yet?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, we put in a lot of work when we look for jobs. We do our resume sometimes for the job, and we reach out, and sometimes application processes take a long time. It's not just a click and a download or upload. So, I think you have to be, this may sound a little light advice, but I think you have to be patient with yourself. I really do. I think you have to understand that, like I said earlier, is that sometimes it's nothing to do with your resume. It's just there's so many applicants, and everyone's great. And sometimes even the recruiter needs time. They're working on other jobs, and they don't have time. Even though they open up the job, that doesn't mean that they're going to recruit for it right away. So I think people need to be patient with themselves. I think you need to, again, utilize your network. Even if your network, someone is connected to someone, to someone else, and then someone, you need to really do your diligence. And you need to like you said earlier, make introductions. Introduce yourself, even though you don't know anybody. So I think those things are important. Just be patient, use your network, and then introduce yourself to people that you don't even know. And sometimes all of that doesn't even work for that job that you thought you were great for. But it just sometimes going to take time. It really does.
Yeah. How, so moving specifically to the job search you're in right now, obviously the high level question, how's it going? But, how's it going? How are you feeling? And, for people who might not be aware, and one thing I'm always, I studied economics, so always big into, government economic data and all that, for those who own, and of course, we could have the best economy ever, and there's still going to be people saying, "Oh, the economy is terrible. Like you can't get a job." Today I read an article about I think it's people who lay like fiber cables or something. Like they can't find enough of them. So yeah, I mean that was like, oh, I could make a lot of money doing that. I mean, someone I know who's a train conductor like makes well into the six figures just like punching tickets on the train. So certainly that, but for those who aren't aware, and I'll put the graphics up on the screen, a couple of key facts. Last year was certainly the worst year for hiring overall in the last 5 years. Also, the unemployment rate's still below historical averages. Specifically moving to tech, 20, 21, 22 was a massive boom. Probably too much of a boom, as you've talked about. 23 was a total nosedive. It fell 60% or an insane amount of fall. I'm going to show these graphics. An organization called TrueUp does a great job of that. Very slow creep up the last 3 years. Here's one piece of good news. The number of tech job openings in the USA right now is at a 3-year high. GDP is booming right now. Stock market's at an all-time high. So if you're struggling, just know it is at least slowly moving in the right direction. The general vibe I'm seeing from recruiters on LinkedIn is this is better than it's been in a couple of years, especially in tech. So, with having said all that, sorry for all the rambling. I love talking job search stuff. How specifically is your job search going right now, and how are you feeling?
It's interesting that you say that because I didn't expect the job search to be as good. Honestly, I was expecting between now and March is going to be really slow. Like I said earlier about timing, I kind of know before tax time is not as usable as slow. But it's actually not bad. I took the winter or holidays off just to take some time to take a deep breath. And also to recalibrate, like, what do I really want to do? Do I want to stay in this lane or not? So to answer your question, it's going the way I want it to. I wanted to be slow. I wanted to take my time. I wanted to see what was out there. I'm getting some interviews, which is great, but I'm also taking a step back and see if there's anything else that I need to do, to do something different. I mean, do I need to maybe be a consultant? Maybe I need to, step back and see if there's any other projects that I want to work on. Well, I have this time. This time never comes, even though, of course I want to be working. I'm not silly. I want to be working. But I also, I am a big advocate to using your time wisely. So is there anything else that I need to discover or learn about myself or, add to my, my career, path that would, help me in the future. So doing well, sustainably, I'm getting some interviews, but I see that the market is, like you said, is better than I thought it was going to be. I expected it to be a little bit more slower, but I'm seeing job postings, up on all different platforms that I didn't expect to see right now. So it's actually not too bad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm really happy to hear that. I'm glad to hear you're getting interviews. Are there things you've learned from previous job searches that are helping you out right now?
I think before I used to use my network, but I didn't use my network as much as I should have. I think I got to a point, I went to college, used my network, trying to get, and then I got a little comfortable. I was like, I'll just apply and then it'll come. I'm really taking the time to touch base with people that I trust within my network. Right. That's the difference. And we have, just information sessions and just talk about, what they're seeing out there, in the job world, I want to get other folks' opinion. I've taken more time to talk to people that are in the consulting field. Like I said, I may be interested in consulting. So that's a little bit different. I haven't done that before. I usually was just talking to people that I know within my network, but I'm reaching out to different people in my network, or more people again that I trust.
Yeah, and that's so great to hear that. And yet at the same time, I once got an amazing job because of LinkedIn job posting. I applied 2 hours, essentially I got an amazing job offer 2 hours later. So sometimes it really can be that easy, and sometimes it can't. And that's what makes job searching so wild. Like, yeah, that easy apply, you can have an amazing job in 2 hours, or it can take 6 months. It's something with so much variance, and that's, yeah, it's, treat it like old country buffet, take a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have a lot of fun there. I guess a couple more questions before we wrap up. One thing,
Sure.
if you could if you hired yourself to be a job search coach, what do you think yourself would tell you? Hey, like, do a little bit more of this. What's something that, in order to make this current job search as effective as possible, you're like, yeah, I hate to admit it, but I should probably do a bit more of that.
That's a really good question.
Like,
I'm
this
not a
is my
person.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's all right. I'm not, and I say this honestly. I'm not a bragger. I don't brag. I think everybody comes with all these different skill sets. Hope you can tell that by talking to me. But I think I need to really, really advocate even more for what I've done. Like I said, I'm not a spring chicken. Been around for a little bit. I think I need to really push that even forward, even more so. I've been doing this for years, and like I said, I really care about it, and I put in a lot of work, and I mean that. I put in a lot of work. I know all of us do. We work really hard, especially in the United States. We work really hard. But I'm usually very humble about it. Like, oh yeah, I did that. Or no, I think I do need to let people know that, yeah, I can consult. I put in the time. I've done the work, and I'm a mini expert in this particular field after all of these years. So like I say it very humbly. I don't mean it to brag whatsoever, but I put in the time, and I need to make sure that I let people know that I've done the work and I care, and I have work history to back it up. So I didn't do that before, but I think I need to do that moving forward. I really do.
Yeah, I mean the following, and that's great that you realize that. The following question could be several PhD theses. Why do you think people struggle to brag during the job search?
That's interesting. I don't know. I've seen people do it, and they can't back it up. That's the thing. But I think when you can back it up, I think you should definitely let people know that you've done the work. Again, I think some people struggle, maybe myself, because I think we just churn. In the United States, we just work and we work and we work, and we just don't really pat ourselves on the back sometimes, because we're always on to the next project and next to the next this, and sometimes we struggle because if we like we were saying earlier in recruiting, sometimes we're always nervous we're going to lose our job, and if we don't do this and if we don't do it perfect, it's not. So I think sometimes, as us, I think people, like I said, maybe in the United States only, I don't know, but we have a tendency of not really taking a deep breath and look back and say, you really worked hard because you cared. And I know for myself, I love, again, I said it earlier, I love what I do and I care. So I put in the work, and I keep, learning and advocating and networking and taking classes and all of the above to get to where I am now. So I need to make sure that I use that to my advantage, because I still care and I still want to do good work.
So the final question, you're going to hate me for this one based on what you just said. Okay. Why should a company hire you? Get up on that soapbox.
Yeah, I know. I
want you to brag as much. I want you to brag as much as possible right now. I want you to think of the cockiest person you know, and you hired them to be your hype man. And you hired them to be your hype man. What would your hype man say for why a company should hire Jennifer?
I'll take that. And you're testing me. That's a good one after the other question. I work really hard, but I care. And I actually have learned work-life balance now. I didn't do that before. So I think how I can hype myself up is I've done the work, I've put in the time. Like again, I care about what I do. I love talent acquisition. That's my space that I'm going to stay in because that's the best space for me. So I think if you want someone that really is really going to keep learning also and do the work and care about the work, then I think I'm a good person to consider for a role that is best suited for me.
And what do what is going to make you even more comfortable if a company,
okay.
and I know I said last question, but I can't be trusted. If a company's deciding between a really good candidate and you, what do you think you kind of do better than a lot of people in your field? And I'm just seeing how uncomfortable this question is making you.
What do I do better than anyone else in the field? I mean, it still goes back to like I said, if it's the right role for me, I'm a very transparent, honest person, very transparent, with in work and outside of work. So if that's something that I feel that I cannot do, I won't subscribe to it at all. That's just it's just we just need to consider we're shit passing in the night. So with all that said, is that I'm going to care about what I do. I'm going to care and I'm going to work really hard. And I'm also going to know that I don't know everything. I'm going to keep learning. So I think if you want someone that comes in and could do the job and care about the job and will do it to the best ability, then I'm definitely the person you need to hire. Hands down.
And how does your caring make my company more money?
How does my care make more money? How does it make more money? I mean, it's just for example, the last job that I had, it was coming in, starting something from scratch. Like they didn't have a program before. I took it on. Nobody really checked in on me and what I was doing. It was just, but I knew how to make sure that the role expanded. That I'm going to do what's best for the company. So how does it make you more money? Like I'm going to own the role. I'm going to make whatever position I'm in or whatever role that I'm in, whatever program that I manage, the best program out there. That was my only goal. It was going to be the best program out there. So if I subscribe to making that the best program out there, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, then you're going to see the results in who I hire and the type of person I hire. So people I've hired have gone on and got promoted many times over. That makes you money because you have a really great hire. So that's how I see how I can contribute.
That's wonderful. That must make you so proud as a recruiter, seeing, hey, like this person that's helping my organization be very successful, like they're here because I brought them here. That must be a really nice feeling.
It's a wonderful feeling. And I mean, I've seen students that didn't know anything and they were super smart and capable, or a hire that, I've hired not just students, but come in and see them grow and now they're a director of this or VP of that.
Wow.
I mean, that's just the only part that I was able to contribute was hopefully finding the person that just wanted to work hard and love what they're doing. And now it's on them. So I take pride in that. I really do. I see them in the halls and they remember me and when they want to help me hire other people, that tells me I did the right thing. So I love that feeling. I mean, I absolutely love that feeling.
So you're saying recruiters are people too?
Yes, we are. I mean, sometimes we don't come across that way but we are. The good ones are.
Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I really appreciate your questions. I mean, I really enjoy the conversation. And I hope that anyone that's watching, that's struggling, because I've been there, I understand that. If you're struggling and you're not getting those calls back or people aren't responding, I know it's hard because you have to pay bills and, live your life. But be patient and understand that you're a great candidate, but it's just sometimes it's a lot of people at one time. So keep trying, hold on, reach out to me if you have any questions. I don't mind mentoring or answering questions, but just hang in there. It's going to get better. It always does.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, Jen.
Thank you, Drew. You have a great day. Nice talking to you.